To all who come to this happy place, welcome.
Hi, and welcome to the first of Storythinker's video essays, a series where we analyze how different media approach narrative and story. There's a lot of great stuff out there focusing on the history, themes, and content of our favorite entertainment, but I'd like to focus more on the craft of storytelling, how narrative structure affects an audience. And I'm going to place a special emphasis on what I think works and what doesn't. Quick note before we begin. I'm a huge fan of every ride I cover in this video, even the ones I critique. Sometimes you have to take the things you love apart to learn from their strengths and weaknesses. Let's get started. Most stories are described as character-driven or plot-driven. In Lord of the Rings, with or without Frodo, a battle for Middle-earth will take place. The entire narrative focuses on situations to move the story forward. Then there are stories like A Song of Ice and Fire, or as we know it on HBO, A Game of Thrones, where the story grows out of decisions characters make and lessons they learn, or don't learn. Plot-driven, character-driven. Newer themed attractions tend to follow the same storytelling principles, and even though they're fun, they can feel forced and lacking in depth. Classic Disney rides turn short moments into lasting experiences by focusing on setting instead of plot or character. Take a look at the definition of theme in this context. I think it's interesting that the definition includes the word setting. Classic Disney rides are masters at setting. They all focus on setting to create a specific mood or atmosphere. They are the gold standard of atmospheric storytelling. Let's look at crowd favorite, The Haunted Mansion. We've been trying to understand its story for longer than it's been open. Regardless, it's garnered an epic following, and whether you ride it in Tokyo, Anaheim, Orlando, Paris, or Hong Kong, you'll recognize it, even in its modified forms. There are terms usually used in screenwriting to describe the sections that make up a story. A story is made up of acts. Acts are made up of sequences. Sequences are made up of scenes. And finally, scenes are made up of shots and beats. But here's the difference. Shots focus on visuals, beats focus on narrative. The Haunted Mansion accomplishes its best immersion in setting by focusing on shots over beats. This focus is also true in Pirates of the Caribbean, The Jungle Cruise, and even some of the best theming outside of the rides. Setting can communicate a large amount of information quicker than plot and story while maintaining believability, and rides don't have very much time to begin with. Here's the definition of belief. I love the Oxford English Dictionary, but I think the word proof here needs more context. In storytelling, you don't prove the story itself to be true. You do it by proving that the universe the story exists in can be believed, or that the characters make decisions in line with their established personalities. In Harry Potter, what if Ron Weasley could talk to snakes? Or if in Uncharted, Drake found an advanced technological suit to help him on his adventures? It's not that these plot points would be any more far-fetched than other plot points already in the stories, it's that they don't mesh well with the established rules or tones in those universes. In Harry Potter, Harry can speak to snakes because of a specific encounter with Voldemort. In Uncharted, futuristic technology is never quite a theme. Mystical adventure and magic is. No one believes a fictional story to be true, but a good story can make us want to believe the story is true, at least just for the moment. This is called willing suspension of disbelief. Suspension of disbelief is easier to ask from an audience by focusing on external information. For instance, let's compare simulation and roleplay. In a simulation, the audience focuses on an external situation, usually based on setting. Want to know what it feels like to drive a truck in Europe? How about manage a theme park? And of course, when role-playing, an audience focuses on internal information by assuming the role of a character. It's harder for an audience to lose themselves in a story if they're being asked to act out what a character would want in a situation. So simulations focus on the external, and roleplay focuses on the internal. Theme parks should also focus on external information when asking an audience for suspension of disbelief. Besides, focusing on setting and external information means we are more free to look around and absorb the themes. Walt himself learned this when Disneyland first opened. Each ride used to put the audience in the role of the main character. People left the ride scratching their heads. Where was Snow White in Snow White's Scary Adventures? Where was Peter Pan in Peter Pan's Flight? Believability has a direct correlation to rewritability. Rewritability is another specialty of setting. With rides that focus on plot or character, a returning audience has the same lack of suspense or excitement as when they watch a movie or read a book for the second time. C.S. Lewis once proposed, "Those who read for excitement will not reread texts, whereas those who read for atmosphere and imagination will engage in multiple readings." I think if you flip this theory, you can apply it to themed attractions. Instead of focusing on the reader or the audience, the best Disney rides focus on the attraction itself. Meaning, rides that focus on atmosphere will engage an audience in multiple ride-throughs more than rides that focus on excitement. Think of the older Disney rides, where the setting is front and center over plot and character. Visiting the ride becomes like visiting a place. Visiting places is so much easier to do more than once. It requires less suspension of disbelief, and it invites the audience to make their own discoveries instead of distracting them with scenes they've experienced before. But who cares about the story? The ride's either fun or it's not, right? That's fair, and I don't disagree. Thrill rides are the least dependent on setting and atmosphere, but they're still better with than without. There are a lot of great thrill rides at the Disney parks that offer less than amazing storytelling, but the most popular rides aren't fun just because of the thrill itself, but because of the setting. Let's look at the difference. The Rock and Roller Coaster is located in the Sunset Boulevard area of Disney's Hollywood Studios. I like to see that even if the setting isn't the main focus, Disney still manages to tie the setting into the ride, in this case drawing on the music industry references of Sunset Boulevard. But what's the theme or setting? Music? Rock and roll? Giant guitar? Let's go inside. Oh, cool. Recording studio. I like this. It's concrete, unlike the outside theming. I think it's a little late to start setting the mood and atmosphere, but hey, better late than never. But before we are cemented in our setting...
Hey! What's that? Hey! What are you guys still doing here? You were supposed to be at a show.
And here's the problem. Setting is thrown away for plot. Just when we finally establish the setting, we make plans to leave and go somewhere else. Everything on this ride, including the setting, is used to further the idea of an American rock band. This is a character-focused ride. The character? Aerosmith. Don't get me wrong, this ride is super fun. And if you compare it to other roller coasters outside of the Disney parks, it's still miles ahead in terms of theme and setting. But let's compare it to a ride that's fun and has a strong focus on setting. Expedition Everest has great storytelling. The title already tells us what we're doing and where we're going, so we're not wanting for clarity like we were on Rock and Roller Coaster, where we had to wait until we got inside. And the travel agency we're using for the expedition is well in place with its surroundings of the Animal Kingdom's Asia area. Visitors walk through the travel agency offices, religious temples, a room with equipment from successful expeditions, and then the Yeti Museum. To show the dedication Disney placed on atmosphere creating detail, consider this fact. There are at least 8,000 artifacts brought mostly from Nepal in this museum. It's hard to even say when the theming starts for this one. Yes, there is still plot in this ride, even character, but every decision seems to stem from setting. The Yeti is not some random character set in the ride to create tension. Instead, the Yeti is drawn from Nepalese folklore, and with the setting being the Himalayas, it makes sense that we would be on an expedition. Everything is connected organically to further the atmosphere. Both the plot and character are used as supplements to the setting. Focusing on setting doesn't mean getting rid of plot and character. It's just a way to prioritize important story decisions. So now you say, what about those even older Disney rides, the ones that opened with the park? Are you saying they don't work? Don't they focus on plot and character? They're just retellings of the movies they represent. Yeah, I hear you. Here's the thing. These stories aren't new. In all the classic Disney dark rides, Disney shows us familiar stories and places us in the action of major plot points. You're totally correct to say that these rides focus on plot and character, but these rides don't try to tell a new story. Instead, they place you in the story you already know, allowing you to visit your favorite parts of the movie. The effect is largely the same as focusing on setting. Once again, we are observers placed in moments we can return to. Lots of modern dark rides make the mistake of trying to convince us of a new story, and to that I say this: we're already here. Either give us the stuff we know and love, or use the plot or character work as a supplement to the setting. Not all use of character and plot are bad, though. That is to say, as is true for all great artists, you have to know the rules to break them, and Disney, even in their modern rides, most definitely knows the rules. In a lot of ways, Disney wrote the rules.